to the Gateway RV Transport Podcast. My name is Greg. For those of you who don't know who I am in charge of the safety and compliance for Gateway RV Transport. I also help out a lot with finance, specifically processing drivers' trip paperwork to get them paid. And with the podcast, I have been helping kind of on the back end. I've been the one who's been editing all the podcasts and releasing them onto the different apps or websites, whatever. With season 2 having just begun, you will start to hear my voice probably a little bit more, as I will be helping interview drivers if Justin or Jordan are ever gone. I'll fill in and help interview drivers and help talk about other topics. Just luckily for you, Justin and Jordan will be the main 2 people still, but I will be filling in and helping out when needed. With that being said, this week's episode is not going to be interviewing a driver. We are going to be talking about the driver meetings we just had. Basically, every year we try to have these meetings where we have all of our drivers come up to it, and we basically go over reminders for drivers from different departments, and some new updates for them, kind of give an explanation of why we've done these updates. And one of the best things, in my opinion, is we get to see all of our drivers face to face, and they get to meet other drivers and talk to them. So in this episode, we're going to be going over what we talked about in the driver meeting in case drivers couldn't make it, or if you're not a driver, if you just want to know what we talked about. Yeah, through this episode, I will bring on the other people in the office. They'll be talking about different reminders or whatnot from them. So first off, we will start with our dispatcher, Allyssa.
Reminders of ETAs for pickup and delivery. If anything changes, we need to know as soon as possible. Pickup hours for my queue have changed. We are now trying to do a 12-hour window, depending on when you are picking up. Double check unit numbers. We have units that have almost the same exact VIN. Double check the make, the model, and the unit number. Do not go through units that are not assigned to you. If you are caught, you will get in trouble. Call all dealerships ahead of time unless we tell you otherwise. Funtown, you do not need to schedule deliveries. We will schedule that for you. We also have 2 lots, and we are going to be using lot numbers for rows of where we are putting units. That'll be in the text that you get sent at the very end. So it could say a 1, a 2, a 3, F4, F1, H1. So make sure that you are checking that. And make sure you have all correct paperwork before you are leaving the lot.
All right. Thank you, Allyssa. Now it is my turn. First thing I'm going to talk about is some things with your trip paperwork. All right. So drivers, on your BOL, in the bottom right corner, there's a pre-transportation conditions section. Please make sure you print and sign your name in that corner. That is supposed to be filled out and signed before you start driving. If I get BOLs where you have not signed that, I will be harassing you for them and won't be paying you until I get them a signed copy. Also, when you send in your paperwork to get paid, please try and take the pictures where the whole paperwork is full screen. So it's not really tiny, but it's full screen. And if you can, do it in black and white. So that will help me out a lot. If you haven't or aren't using it, I highly recommend the app Cam Scanner. It will auto crop it and change it to black and white to make it very legible for us. Highly, highly recommend that app if you haven't used it. I know there are a couple other apps that work as well too, like I think Drive Axle's one, but Cam Scanner's my favorite. One other thing, make sure it's clear and legible. Factories have actually been getting on us about that, where they won't accept paperwork if they can't read everything on it. Next thing on the BOL, there in the center, we have added, a couple months ago, we added a section to the trip details and driver submissions in the center. There's a line that says documents needed to be paid. We work with a lot more factories than we have in the past. So each trip, it's not always the same documents that you need in order to get paid. This, on the BOL, will tell you what exact documents you need to turn in so we can get you paid. I can tell you now, it will always be the BOL. Sometimes it'll be just the BOL. Sometimes it'll be the BOL and dealer's acceptance form. Sometimes the BOL in like a unit inspection form. Sometimes other things. Just make sure you read that, see what it says, and turn those in. If you get to a dealer or a delivery point and you don't have the required documents, call the office. Because sometimes it can change, or it may have been entered in incorrectly, but call us before you leave the delivery to make sure that you have everything you need. We'll verify it for you. Next thing, on the dealer acceptance form, this is specifically for Forest River units. At the very bottom, there's a line that says Transport Company. If you ever see that and it's blank, just write in Gateway RV Transport. Also, an issue that I've seen coming up more recently, it has a spot for the driver signature and date. Sometimes drivers haven't been signing it. I do have to have you sign it. And from starting now, you will not be getting paid unless you sign the dealer acceptance form also. Okay, next thing, permits. If you have to get permits for your trip, turn them in. We will reimburse them. Also, some states will give you a separate receipt that includes like a fee. I know New Mexico, it's like $25 for a permit, then like a $3 fee. If you turn in the permit and the receipt with that fee, we will reimburse you the full amount, including the fee. Just have to turn it in, and specifically turn it in when you turn in your paperwork. If you turn it in a couple days later, it's going to be too late. We can't reimburse you. We can only do it if you turn it in with your delivery paperwork. On the other hand, tolls can be now turned in up to 2 weeks after you turn in your delivery paperwork to get reimbursed. Big thing is, when you do turn in tolls, make sure you note what trip they go for. If you just turn in tolls, don't tell me what trip they go for, didn't turn any paperwork in that day, I'm not going to be able to reimburse those because I need to know what trip they go with. Third thing with trip paperwork is COD checks. If you deliver a unit and there's COD, if you get a COD check and you are not going to be by one of our yards within the next week, mail it to us, please. Factories are wanting those to get back to them quicker and quicker. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the new fuel card. I say new, honestly, we've had it for about a year. I know in the last couple months, though, we've started opening it up to more and more drivers. This one, the more drivers we have on it, the better discounts we get. So if you are interested in it, we would be happy to get you one. Some of the discounts that I looked at a couple weeks ago to see what our drivers got, and these are specifically ones that the drivers themselves got. Road Ranger, they got 30 cents off a gallon. I know that's the best one we've gotten. They have a lot of stations in the Midwest. The next one is Quick Trip, specifically Quick with a K. They were given 15 cents off per gallon. Mavericks, I know a lot of drivers stop there. That one does vary, but depending on this location, they were getting up to 15 cents off per gallon. TA and Petro, we get 14 cents off per gallon. Speedway, we were getting 10 cents off per gallon. Circle K was 10 cents as well. One of the big advantages to this fuel card is it's an EFS card, and we can pay you half of your trip payout up front on the card when you're dispatched. And then on the back end, once you deliver, we can also load your final payment onto the card if you want. We can still do a direct deposit if you want. However, when we do direct deposit, we submit it like today, and then it goes into your account the next day. If we do it onto the fuel card, it will be on the fuel card within a couple of minutes, so you don't have to wait that day. And this fuel card, it's basically just a MasterCard. It can be used anywhere MasterCards can be used. I, even when we got it, went out to test it, and I just went to Walmart and bought a bunch of things in Walmart, and it worked. No problems. You also, through the app, if you decide, you're not going to use all that money for fuel or whatnot, you can actually, in the app, transfer some of the money from your card to your bank account. So it's really nice that way. If any of our drivers, if you hear this and you're interested in it, please stop by the office and we would love to get you set up on it. Now to the safety and compliance topics. To start off with, I want to go over inspections and violations. Specifically, if you're out on the road, you get pulled over, stopped at a scale house, and an officer gives you a inspection, please let me know as soon as you can. If it's after hours, next morning, call me, let me know. Whether it's good, you received no violations, or you got like 20, or even 1. Just let me know. I need to know soon. Certain states. Also, as soon as it's over, please send me that inspection form. If you didn't get any violations, you'll get a good bonus on your next trip. If you did, I actually have to do stuff with the states. Generally, I have to sign it, make sure all the violations are taken care of, and then send a copy to the state. And I only have so many days to get that done, otherwise we can get fined by those states. So please, if you get one, let me know and email me a copy ASAP. With that being said, in the last 2 years, the top 5 violations we received by weight, which certain violations are scored heavier than the others. So in the last 2 years, the top 5 violations by weight, the first one, which I think we only actually received one of these violations, was driving beyond the 14 hours of on-duty time, which obviously that one is very important, hence why it is weighted so high. And like I said, we only got one, but it is the biggest hit to our score. The second one is brakes being inoperative. This one is specifically the emergency brakes on your truck. I know every couple months we do the company inspections where you come in and we check your truck and we check it then, but I tell every driver, just before and after a trip, make sure your emergency brake works. And if it doesn't, get it fixed quick. The third top violation is the breakaway cable not being attached properly or at all. This one's very important because obviously if your trailer comes off of your truck, hopefully that never happens, but if it does, this will pull the switch and it will start the emergency brakes on the trailer, so that way hopefully it doesn't hit anybody else. With that being said, we've gotten a couple drivers who have not had it attached or had it attached like in the safety chains. It should be noted that you cannot have it hooked in the safety chains onto the frame. It does have to be attached separately. The fourth violation is failure to obey a traffic control device. This can be like running a red stoplight, not stopping at a stop sign, not following a yield sign, stuff like that. Not following those can very directly lead to an accident, so please make sure you're paying attention to those signs. Well, devices. The fifth one is improper lane change. It's pretty straightforward. Not changing lanes without a blinker, or trying to change lanes when somebody else is in there. Just pay attention while you're driving. Alright, the next topic, just wanted to cover the top 3 reasons for accidents in the last 2 years. The first one is ice. So we had more drivers get in accidents because of ice than anything else in the last 2 years, which it's pretty easy to avoid. The biggest thing is if it's very cold out, drop below freezing that night, I highly recommend you wait to drive until the sun's up, until you can actually see more ice on the road. But even with that being said, slow down, take it easy, just be extra careful whenever it's getting cold. The second biggest reason for the most accidents is wind, which that one is also fairly preventable. There's an app I recommend called Windy, windy.com, or its website, or you can get the app on your phone. It can actually show you the wind speeds throughout the country. It's not always 100% right, but it's pretty good. So when you're planning your trip, I highly recommend you pull that up on your phone or on your computer, kind of look at the route you're going to be taking, step it through day by day, see which states you're going to be where and when, and look at the wind speeds. If the wind is high, do not drive while pulling a trailer. We've had several already even this year flip because drivers weren't paying attention to it and drove in the wind. The third is construction, which seems like everybody, whenever they go into construction zones, even small cars, seem to forget how to drive. So just whenever you're going through construction zones, pay extra attention to other drivers around you and the road. Yeah, those are the top 3 reasons for accidents. Then a couple other just miscellaneous safety and compliance reminders. Like I said before, wind. It's been more and more lately that we've had issues with wind. Just please pay attention. And if the wind gusts get above 30 miles an hour, please just park it and wait it out till the wind is lower. I know Wyoming's really bad, but Iowa and Nebraska lately has also been pretty bad. So just always pay attention to the wind speed. Next one, like I said earlier, the breakaway cables. We've had a lot of drivers getting violations for those. Please, when you hook up, make sure it's not in with the safety chains, that it's attached separately, and that it is attached. Next one is batteries. When you do hook up to a trailer, you do need to have a battery on the trailer hooked up, powering on, because that is what is going to power the brakes to stop it, in case it does unhook from your truck. BOLs. Some factories that we pull for put in paperwork that says bill of lading at the top, or BOL. Those are not actually legal BOLs. Whenever you're transporting a trailer for us, make sure you have a BOL from us. One that has Gateway's logo at the top and all that. If you don't have one, call the office. We have blank ones in both of our yards that you can handwrite one, or we can email you one pretty quickly. Just do not drive without one. Last thing is placards. Please make sure you have placards on while you're transporting. And specifically, make sure you have them on both sides of your truck. Just having it on one side is not good enough. You do have to have them on both sides. And I know, especially when it gets cold, it can be easy for them to come off your truck. If you want, stop by the office. We'll give you an extra magnet or two that you can keep in your truck just in case one flies off. Next thing I wanted to talk about is our basic scores. So for those who are unaware, while you're out on the road, you can get pulled over and get, mostly at way stations, but it can be on the road also, you can get inspections from officers. These inspections are then collected by a federal database and then are used to calculate our basic score or safety score. There's a couple different categories that violations can go into and that we have separate scores in. The first one is hours of service. So that's basically anything to do with your logs, whether it's driving past when you needed to, not getting a long enough rest break, or even simple things as like not putting down how many miles you drove that day. The next category is unsafe driving. That's where you're going to get like speeding, improper lane changes, not stopping at a stop sign. Third one is vehicle maintenance. That's where your like headlights not working is going to be, or your emergency brake not working. Essentially, things on the truck itself that is not working. Fourth one is driver fitness. That one is specifically like not having your driver's license on you, or not having your med card on you, or your license being expired, or say you're taking a CDL load and you don't have a CDL. That's a violation, and that would go in that category. The last one is crash indicator. That one, essentially, it goes off of how many at-fault crashes we have had in the last 2 years, and basically is a percentage, and it's supposed to correlate theoretically to how likely our drivers are to get in accidents. So the less accidents we have, the better score that is. And then the last thing with our basic scores is the ISS score. I forget what it is, what it stands for, but essentially it's a composite of all of our other scores. They have some weird formula to figure it out. Basically, that ISS score breaks, depending on what it is, there are 3 categories. It is inspect, optional, or pass. I can't remember if it's actually optional or what word they were used for it, but essentially, when a driver pulls up to a weigh station, the officers, based off of the DOT number, will see that, and that is the recommendation to the officer. If it's in the inspect category, obviously they recommend to the officer to inspect that truck, as that company has had issues. If it's optional, it's basically saying to the officer, they might have issues, might not, it's up to you. And then pass category is basically recommending to the officers, hey, these guys are pretty good, they don't have tons of issues, we recommend you just let them through. Because essentially on these inspections, the officers are just trying to make sure the trucks and drivers are legal and that they're not going to cause an accident. And with that being said, our scores have drastically changed over the last 5 or 6 years. And 5 years ago, so with the scores being said, I should say a 0% in a score category is very good. That's the best. 99, 100% is the worst. You want a low score. So 5 years ago, our hours of service score was 97%. And our ISS recommendation was to inspect us. With that being said, that's also right around when I was actually hired. And as I have been doing all the safety and compliance stuff, I've worked with our drivers to try and get this changed. And I will say, we could not have gotten it lowered to where it is now without the effort and hard work of our drivers. So yeah, 5 years ago, all of our scores were pretty high. Our hours of service was 97%. You really could not do much worse than that. That being said, a couple months ago, our hours of service score is 55%. Still kind of high, but a lot better. And all of our other scores have dropped drastically, even more so. Our ISS recommendation now is pass. So when our drivers you pull up to the weigh station, it will actually recommend to the officer that they let you go without doing an inspection. Of course, they can still pull you in if they want, but it does mean that they're generally only going to pull you in if they notice something or something looks weird. Yeah, that was all of my stuff that I had. So the next person we will hear from will be Justin.
Okay, the first thing that I'm going to cover was the primary causes for totaled trailers in the last 5 years. So as anyone in the industry knows, in the last 5 years, theft has been a problem. And so we've changed things that have really mitigated our risks there. One of them is we have some apps essentially that help secure things. So we have our cameras, which we have at both of our lots. We have a bunch of cameras. There's an app called Lorex that we really like that will notify us when motion is detected. And so you can set different ranges so if motion's detected, so we can see when somebody's in the yard, which has helped. As well as we have the app that will allow us to open and close the gate remotely. So in the past we had just combinations. Now we have this really useful app. And so that has been a deterrent for theft. A couple of other things that have been a problem for theft is a driver should never unhook a camper from an RV after they've left the lot. So theft is a big cause for concern. If you are cautious, you don't unhook the camper from the truck, that really mitigates the risk. The number 2 is wind and ice. So the prevention for this is really just paying attention to the weather, especially in the winter. Don't drive in heavy wind. Don't drive with icy road conditions. The third would be a variety of reasons of either drivers not paying attention or making mistakes. The fourth most common reason for a totaled trailer in the last 5 years is another party crashing into our trailer. There's some things that you can do to mitigate this. You can't obviously have full control over the other people on the road, but you can drive defensively, give yourself enough space, pay attention to the other people on the road, and you're not just driving your own vehicle, you're driving everyone on the road's vehicles in a sense. And then the fifth, and this is, in my opinion, the most easily avoidable, is low bridges. Be careful about going under low bridges. If you take out an AC unit, it can often total a trailer. If you're interested to see, the RV Industry Association has some really beneficial and informative graphs on the RV industry trends. Obviously, on a podcast format, I can't quite explain it, but the projections are basically for 2025 to be similar, the last half of 2025 to be similar to the last half of 2024. We expect to see the same thing. When you compare our number of units with the RV industry as a whole, we mirror the industry pretty closely. So when the RV industry is doing well, Gateway is doing well. When it's not doing well, Gateway is not doing as well. That is it's very closely related to how the industry is doing, which the industry is very closely connected to how the economy is doing. When the economy is booming, the RV industry does better. When the economy drops, the RV industry drops. The exception to that is anybody who's been around here, COVID was nuts. COVID really just, everybody wanted to go RV camping as a result of COVID, which we would not have expected. So when you look at the chart of RV sales across the country, you see that big spike during COVID. That was kind of an event that we don't expect to be replicated unless there's some other world-changing thing that makes everybody want to go camping. So, and if you're interested, come by and see me. I can show you, or you can Google it, the RVIA. You can look at some of the RV data that they've collected since, I think some of the data goes back to the 80s. You can see RV retail sales going back to the 80s. If I am, correct me if I'm wrong here, Greg, which Greg is here with me, but I believe it's about 10% of the RVs in the country are motorhomes, and the other 90% are fifth wheels and travel trailers, which is what we do. I think the general public often thinks of just motorhomes. But a few other things, if you weren't able to attend the meeting, that stop by and I can give you some specifics. Just make sure that you're going slow in the yards, that you're not going too fast, that you have your placards on, and if you see anything suspicious or unusual, to make sure to call. We went over as well reasons to call and not to call the after hours number. If you can't find your trailer, if there's a problem with the trailer, the gate's not opening, you have a problem at the dealer, there's any suspicious activity or you're in an accident, please call. And reasons not to call and wait till office hours would include anything that can wait. Getting dispatched, questions about your pay, things like that. The general principle being, if it's an emergency, call. The more of an emergency, the later into the night, it would be okay to call. If you're calling at 3 a.m. for something that's not a big deal, you probably should wait. If you're calling at 5 p.m., it doesn't have to be as big of a deal. So just as a general rule of thumb. And then one of the things that we went over, the number one piece of feedback I received from dealers about how we could do better is to call ahead. We have gotten a lot better about this. We've tried to really hound everyone about calling ahead. It is in your best interest for a variety of reasons. You don't want to get to a dealership and they're not open. They're closed for a local holiday. They don't take Monday deliveries. Whatever the reason is, always call ahead. Now, this isn't perfect at preventing the possibility of there being a delay in your being able to deliver. Sometimes this has happened. You call and say, hey, when I'm bringing this RV, what are your hours? You talk to somebody, you set it all up, you get there, and they're like, they have no idea. The message did not get conveyed. That doesn't happen often. Usually, if you communicate what you need to do, dealers are good about taking care of it. People aren't perfect. Sometimes that gets dropped. But if you call ahead, that will prevent issues at the dealership for you, as well as it helps Gateway as a whole, and it helps the dealer to plan ahead. Especially if you think about a small dealer, they might only have one or two check-in people. If that check-in person is going to be off the day that you were planning on coming, and you just show up unannounced, it's going to be different. It's not like, a delivery where there's not others involved. When we deliver new RVs, they have to be checked in. There's a process that takes time. And some dealers are more vigorous, I would suppose is the right word, about doing a pretty intense inspection. And some of them, you're in and out of there in 5 minutes. It's just going to depend on the dealership. Just plan. If you've never been to that dealership, I like to plan as if it's going to take longer. It's definitely better to plan on it taking longer and you get to leave earlier and is better than you expected than plan on it going ideally and it doesn't go ideally and now you feel behind. So just always call ahead. Those are the main things. Then the general just thing that I hope is conveyed, and I hope that those who were able to attend got this, is we really appreciate everything that you guys do out there. We really enjoy doing this, and to work with our drivers is one of the reasons that we keep doing this and that we like doing it. And so we hope that you found, for those of you who were able to attend, that the information was helpful. Obviously, we're getting a very much more condensed version of just some of the highlights right now. But again, thank you. And that's all I've got.
All right. Thank you, Justin. And the next person that we'll hear from is going to be Jordan.
Well, my portion of the driver training is pretty brief. The first part I am addressing is just how rates are calculated. There was a time back in the day where in the industry there was one rate, and then it evolved into a couple rates based on geography. Now, and because we've had this question many times, just going to briefly explain that doesn't happen anymore. I don't really think there are really any companies that have very standard rates. They're very dynamic. They change depending on a lot of factors. The trailer type, whether it's a fifth wheel or a park model or bumper pull, may have an impact on the pay rate, the weight, the part of the country it's going to, how old the trailer is, how eager the customer is to receive it. All of these come into play when it comes to the rate. You may have seen that there is a trip on the available trips dispatch board or load board that maybe you've done a trip to a particular place before and you see that there is another trip going to the same place, and it might even be the same type of trailer that is paying a different amount. That is going to happen now. Again, didn't happen in the past as much, but now the way that the rates are calculated, it's going to be happening more and more. We typically don't negotiate a particular rate at that moment. If you like the trip but don't like the rate, the best thing to do is going to be to wait a few days, I guess, to wait a week or 2 weeks and see if the rate changes, because it may. That just runs the risk of somebody else taking that trip. But so as far as rates are calculated, really the answer is every trip is going to be different. There's an algorithm that calculates for a lot of these different things. And so keep in mind that the rates may change and they may be different from trip to trip, even going to the same place. The last plug that I wanted to make sure was made is regarding our podcast. We have a handful of episodes that have already been released. We're calling that Season 1. We have a lot of great discussion with drivers, so please have a look at all the major platforms that hold podcasts. It's called the Gateway RV Transport Podcast. So one, we like the idea of our drivers having something to listen to. You know, it's kind of a community building initiative. We get to know a little bit more about drivers. We talk with them one-on-one about their background, about their experience in this industry, but also kind of about who they are. And it's kind of fun to get to sit down. So if you haven't had a chance to schedule a time to be on the podcast, please reach out, really talk to anybody in the office. We will schedule a time to do a podcast with you. It's really casual. It's really based off of driver's comfort level. So please reach out. We'd love to really interview all of our drivers. We have an amazing driver base. We have really interesting people that we work with regularly that have got really cool backgrounds, and we're excited to hear from them. And it's kind of I think a lost opportunity if we, considering the types of drivers that we have, if we don't get a chance to talk to everybody. So please come in. We want to know more about your story, and then you can listen to drivers' podcasts and get to know a little bit more about the other drivers as well. The last thing that I wanted to do for our driver training was just to kind of give some shout outs to some of our 2024 driver stats. So this is going to be interesting for some. And again, especially if you're a new driver, you won't be on this list, of course, but you'll be able to be on next year's top driver stats. So the number of trips, we had 5 drivers that had the most trips in 2024. And I'm just going to go first names. Trey with 83 and Seth also with 83. So great job, guys. And then Tim had 71 trips, Pat 65, and Cheryl had 65 trips. So that's a lot of running. Well done. And now Miles is going to be a little bit different because you can do a lot of short trips. So really the biggest, the most impressive part is going to be this one here is the amount of drivers, driver miles, paid miles. So again, the top 5, Trey had the most for 85,206 miles. Roy had the next most, 68,000. Marcus, 56,000. Kelly had 53,000. And Bob had just under Kelly, less than 100 miles between those two, 100 miles difference. So great job, everybody. We really can't stress enough how grateful we are for the drivers that we have, how they take their job seriously, how they help Gateway look like, and not just look like, but be one of the best transport companies in the industry. We really owe a lot to our drivers, and I can't thank enough our drivers for what they do. We in the office try to take trips whenever we can. A big part of it is to make sure we know what that experience is like. And from the outside, I think it's easy for people to see that really all you do is sit in the truck and you drive. There's a lot more to it than that, and we know that, and we've experienced that. So again, thank you for everything that you do, and we look forward to another great year.
Thank you, Jordan. All right, and that pretty much covers everything we have talked about, or we did talk about in the driver meetings. If you have any questions about anything we did talk about, please call us, ask us about it. We'd love to talk to you about it. Thank you, and have a good day.